Al revés.
Yep. So,
No tengo ni idea. No hemos comido.
it's 45 minutes.
Vamos a morir. No hemos comido, vamos a morir.
At one. Why do we do it at two? The mentorship was at one.
No, it was at 2.
Ah.
Was at 2.
Es que esto es horario portugués.
Ah, ok.
Eso es horario portugués, tienes que tomarlo siempre uno. N+1.
Vale. Igual que la sesión de la semana pasada. Que todo el mundo está a las 10 y empezaba a las 11.
Sí. Todo de N+1 porque está,
Thanks.
se pone aquí, Hora Central Europea, Lisboa.
Lisbon.
Estamos en el
Yeah.
Like there's some.
Yeah.
How many groups do you want to do?
2 groups. Yeah, I think it's good. 2 groups.
Okay, so just 2 blackboards.
Yeah.
Pero es de aquí, ¿no? Tienes que ir.
Yeah, it's just a normal brainstorming session. I'm not sure exactly how it will work actually, but I will figure out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would like to. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Hello. Mentorship session.
Okay, let's get started. So, this is our mentorship session, and if you have any question, if you are stuck, this is the place to ask your question. So, yeah, I know that we had some issues. Otherwise,
All so just one basic question. All the times are in Portuguese time.
no.
I'm looking at the calendar, and it says that this session is at 1.
No. Okay, I think you need to add the calendar to your local time, so it's here.
Here.
Yes, because yeah, it's based on where I was when I did the calendar, but then it will automatically adapt to your calendar.
So that's why also the session of last week, we were told it was at 10 and it started at 11.
Yes.
Okay, but now where is it?
You should see the calendar in
my calendar.
Other calendar.
No,
you don't have it.
Where? Other calendars?
No, it's strange. Okay, can you go back to the page?
More class. Añadir. Add.
Okay. Now it's good.
Okay, but then we have now a mentorship session and then another session.
Yes.
Okay, but when are we going to eat?
It's in our 18 hours.
Okay, yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, then okay.
We can bring some sandwiches. I mean,
no, but not in this part we cannot.
Yeah.
If we eat,
we have to be there.
Can go.
We are hacked.
Okay. Okay. So.
cocina te arranca un poder de...
¿Cómo?
Ah.
No, listo.
Vale, vale.
Yo lo tengo.
O sea, estás leyéndotelo en el otro lado, pero en los libros.
Okay, so I'll make. So if you have a question, we have the mic here. Just take the mic, ask your question. Otherwise, I want to make a quick summary because I think people, like some of you, are not working on the projects. So the idea is that you start your code space and you have this interface. Maybe if you have an issue at this point, try to refresh, try to change your browser, maybe Chrome. I know Chrome works good. And you arrive on this code space. If you don't want to use code space, you can also work locally, but it requires a setup and you have to make your setup locally. I don't have a guide for that, so some of you already did it. If someone wants to do setup locally, ask the person that already did it, okay? Otherwise, we are going to work with the code space. The first thing we need to do when we have the code space is dfx start, because we will need to install dfx. Even though it comes with the code space, there is a reason, I don't know exactly why, but you need to run dfx start to like cache the files and install it locally. Once you have your dfx running, you can open a new tab. And actually, we don't even need this one. It's just dfx start. We can kill it after, we don't need it. And it's so good. You should test then the command mops test level 1. That's how you're going to test your projects. So this should work. If it doesn't, we'll go into why it doesn't work. But the first thing is that you should test these mops. It might take a few minutes to set up in the beginning, the first time you're using it. And then you have this test. If you don't have if you have an issue, you will see like set manifesto is not implemented. And then you go to your source code file and you implement your function. So we would work on level 1 and we would work here to try to fix this issue. You might have this pop-up like error while resolving Motoko packages. We don't care about that. It's a problem that I need to fix, but it's not going to affect the mops test. So just click on cancel and we don't care about that. Is everyone able to do mops test level 1? No? Okay, so okay. So do you mind sharing what's the problem? Like what's the error message?
Well, I did mob test. Where is it now? Mobs test level 1, and I got test files level 1.test.mo node event 505 throw error unhandled error event.
Okay. First thing, make sure that you are on the correct like space
Folder or
correct folder. So you should be on your code space /workspace
source
/DAO adventure. Is
DAO
there?
adventure?
Okay.
Yes.
Then maybe check your node version. So
node version.
Node version, yeah.
Node /b 18.1.0. Yes.
Okay.
No, but I'm with the README. I don't know if I'm reading.
Have you run the dfx start before?
Sorry?
Have you run the dfx start?
Yes, the dfx is working. No,
Okay.
but the dfx, what else?
Start.
Start with a slash or start?
No,
just dfx start.
Okay. Running dfx start.
Is it saying installing dfx? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
so
installed successfully.
Okay, yeah. First time you set up your code space, you need to run this dfx
Application
start,
running.
and I don't know exactly why actually, but it needs this dfx start once just to be setting up the dfx. Actually, it's strange because it shouldn't, but that's how things work sometimes. Now you should be able to do a mobs test.
Initialize replica, but it's wait. Then and now I run mobs because I'm not back in the command line. It's still executing. Do I do Control C?
Oh, you need to yeah, when you do dfx start, so you need to open another terminal. So if I do it here, dfx start, this will take, like the replica will take this
Yes,
space.
that's where I am.
You need to open another one. So
Another one.
yeah,
How do I
another
do it?
terminal on the. So you can open more terminal like this.
Terminal. But at the right, I don't have anything at the right hand side, or yes, I do. No, split terminal. What more?
So just
New
to
terminal.
just
Yes.
to summarize.
Okay, now I have a new terminal. Okay.
And now you should be able to run the mobs test.
Mobs. How was it?
Mobs,
Mobs test.
mobs test level 1 like this.
Level 1. Okay, it's thinking. Okay, yes, now I see the same as you. Test failed.
Good. That's perfect. So let's code a bit. Let's code. Okay. The first thing that we yeah. Oops. Hey. You are able to talk, but you have the mic muted. Yeah. You will need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon. I don't know what time is over there. Yesterday I was trying to submit my level 1 on the dashboard.
Where's
Then I wasn't.
the remote?
The television.
Because the sound of the 1 second, just the sound is very low. I just need to. I think it's here. Did someone see the remote?
There.
Ah, good. Yeah. Can you repeat?
Okay. Yesterday I was trying to submit my the level 1 assignment on the dashboard. So I was not able to, access it. So I ran my mob test, it passed, but I could not send the canister ID so that I can be verified to move on to level 2.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened is that you deployed locally and not on the playground. So you need to deploy like this. And I will come to how you deploy, but like, actually, let's do it. So this will deploy your canister in the playground.
Okay.
So the playground is a test net, actually. It's on the IC, on the internet computer, and you will use the canister ID that you have here. So your canister DAO with this ID, and then you will submit to the Motoko Bootcamp dashboard. Let's see. But I think what happened is maybe you submitted a canister ID that was locally. So if you have a canister ID that is locally and you submit it online, the dashboard will not find it. this, and then level 1. And then you are going to either see an error message or a validated level message. And for me, I'm probably going to see an error message, I guess. Yes, because I did not implement get manifesto yet.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I think your problem was that you deployed from
Locally, yeah.
locally and not on the IC. So make sure
On
to
the
do
testnet.
deploy and add the playground flag.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the level 1 is here. I'll open it on the right. Oops. So the level 1 is about setting up the basis of our DAO. So you have a whole story about the school of the future, the Motoko Academy, and so on. And a strong foundation to create a successful DAO is to start with a clear and well-defined dream or vision. So the idea is to have the vision for your DAO, and it comes in the form of a name, a manifesto for your DAO, and a list of goals that you want to achieve. And our first task, so this is what you should do. This is like the mission is more of an overview of the level, and the task is how you're going to implement this level. And so our first task is to define an immutable variable name. And we've seen that already in the workshop. Also in the documentation, you have these variables. In Motoko, we use let. So let name, which would be a variable of type text. And then we would set the name of the DAO. So maybe Motoko Bootcamp DAO. And that's it for the task number 1. So remember, in Motoko, we always use this semicolon at the end of the declaration, variable declaration and function declaration. And that's it. We've done our first task. And we have 2 types of variables in Motoko. So the second one is just the mutable variable. And this would be also of type text. You don't have necessarily to add the type. Like, for example, this would work. If you don't specify the type of a variable, it's not a problem. So let's say empower the next wave of builders to create and leverage DAOs. Okay. Here I didn't specify the text, but it's still working. There is no issue. There is no error, because Motoko is automatically going to know that this is a variable of type text. I do recommend that you keep the types, especially for this week, because it's good to like have a clear structure. Motoko is a very typed language. So if you're familiar with TypeScript, it's gonna be very, very clear for you, but yeah, make sure to always respect the types because it's very important. We have the types in the functions arguments, the types in the function parameters. So it's better to always keep the types.
If you don't specify the type, does it say, is it any, or does it infer it from whatever you've written there and it makes it a text?
No, it will, how do you say it? Infer the type. It will infer the type from whatever you define.
But it won't allow me to change the type.
But no, you won't be able to change the type. One situation where you have to specify the type is like, for example, if you want to define an age, let's say 50, 40, this will be automatically casted to a NAT. So the NAT type is a natural number in Motoko. It's one of the most used type. But we also have a bounded NAT. So we have NAT 8, NAT 16, NAT 32, NAT 64, of course, on the number of bits. And the problem is, by default, it's going to be NAT. So if you want a NAT 16, you have to specify it. So that's a problem for NAT. That's also the same problem for int. For text, it's not a problem because there is only one type where you have a, like, there is only one possibility when you define something like this string of character. There is only the type text that corresponds.
Is unsigned and int is signed.
NAT is unsigned, so it's all the natural numbers from 0 to infinity. There is no bounded, like on the NAT type, can grow as much as possible. Under the hood, the NATs will be reallocated like the memory space. So you don't have to worry, there is no limit. So yeah, it's from 0 to plus infinity, and int is gonna be from plus infinity to minus infinity, essentially. Yeah. Okay, so we are good because we've already done task 1 and task 2. And the idea of task number 3 is to implement our first function. And is someone speaking? No, I saw there. Yeah, the idea is to implement the getName function. So we want to actually be able to see the name from outside of the canister. And this is a query function. So remember, 2 types of variable, but also 2 types of function, the update function and the query function. In this case, we only read, so we can use a query. And this is the syntax. So public shared query function. We can actually remove that. We can make it simpler like this. Public query function. So public means this function is accessible outside. Anyone can call it. A user, another canister. Query is a read. Function is func. Func is function. And there we have the name of the function. We don't specify any arguments. The return type is going to be async text because this will be, so you've probably understood what we need to do. It's not rocket science, but we need to change the variable to be name. And yeah, so this is of type text. And we are return async because messages from canisters are always asynchronous because they always take time to answer us. We haven't finished the level, but we have made some progress. So I want to maybe do a quick deployment. So to make a deployment, I want to deploy to the playground. So as I've said, the playground is a space where you can deploy for free, but our canister will be deleted every 20 minutes. So keep that in mind. But for the bootcamp, it's not a problem. The good thing about deploying on the playground is that your canister will be accessible by anyone. Like even if you want to share your canisters like between students, you want to check the canister of someone else, you can just send this address. So you would be able to access my canister if I share this link in the chat. You would be able to go on the link and interact with it. So we have the Candy UI, which is the visual interface. And of course, we have all those functions because actually, if we look at our main.mo file, we have all those functions, but they are not implemented yet. The only one that we have implemented is getName. And it works. As you can see, it's also very fast, just a few milliseconds because it's a query function. Okay. Let me just, I think I'll need to, yeah. You probably have understood that the next function that we need to implement is very similar. So yes, we just want to return the manifesto essentially. Once again, same function, same structure, and same type. Our next function is a bit more involved because it's an update function, and for the first time, we are going to modify the states of our canister. So we will change the blockchain, act on the blockchain, and so this is where it will take more time. We have this parameter new manifesto, and so we will use this operator. So it's an allocation operator to allocate a new value to our manifesto. And we don't need to return actually the value of the manifesto, because the type of our function is, so this is the unit type. It's called the unit type. And this basically means that we return nothing. So you can think of it as essentially we are doing just this here. It's also totally valid to just do that. But if you want to just be clear about exactly what's happening, this is how you would write it. And actually, let's try. So if I deploy again, this time you will be able to change the manifesto. And so we can go back to the same interface and so get manifesto. So it's gonna be here. And then set manifesto. Let's see. You can see this time it takes a bit more time. So actually we can even see the exact number of seconds it took to the function to run. That's 2.8 seconds. This is because it's an update call. So this is actually changing the states of our canister. And this canister is on the internet computer, and we have multiple nodes. They need to come to a consensus. There are a lot of steps involved, and so it takes more time. Usually between 2 to 3 seconds, can be faster, can be slower, depends. And now we should get a new manifesto. And yeah, actually anyone with that has access to this link, you can actually change the manifesto right now if you want. And so yeah, we've already done quite a few steps of the level 1. The next function, okay, we have done task 4, we have done task 5. The next task is to set a list of goals for our DAO. And this, in the task, we recommend to use a buffer of type text, which will store the goals of our DAO. So for the first time, we actually need to learn about a new concept, which is the buffer. And so, of course, this is something that we have in a lot of programming languages, but in Motoko, we use them quite a few. And so this is just essentially, you can think of it as a place where you can add elements very easily. So it's really good if you need to add elements. We also have arrays that you could use, but arrays are not very efficient if you want to reallocate, just add new elements. So you would use a buffer in Motoko. And to define a buffer, you need to import the buffer library. So this is the documentation from the buffer library. And essentially, we just need to import it. And you will see that it's probably already imported. Yes, it's here. To import a package, we do, so import, then the name of the package. This could be any name. We could rename it to B maybe, but let's stay like neutral. So import buffer, and then this is basically saying from the Motoko library, from the base library. So the base library is a set of packages for basic operations, import the buffer library. And now we can use the buffer library in our code. If we take a look, this is how you would define a buffer. So let's buffer is equal to buffer.buffer. So I know it can.
What was the between base buffer? Okay.
Yes, the question was what was the path to import? The path is mo base/buffer. And you can see that the base library contains actually quite a few packages. So for example, we also have hashmap, text, debug, a lot of like memories. Yes. So to define a buffer, you need to do buffer.buffer. I know it can be a bit confusing. Like I don't love this syntax, but it actually makes a lot of sense. It's imports the buffer, import the buffer class, so here, from the buffer library. So the buffer library is here. And in this library, buffer has been defined as a class. So we import the object buffer from the buffer library. And then you need to specify the type of the object that you are going to store inside the buffer. So if you want a buffer of NAT, you need to specify it. If you want a buffer of text, you also need to specify it. In our case, we want to store text, so we would change NAT to text. And actually, I want to name that goals. And we need to specify the initial capacity. So how much elements are we able to store in the buffer? You can specify 0. Honestly, this is going to grow automatically under the hood. You don't need to care about that. I usually specify 0. Like it doesn't really matter, except if you start like with a buffer that you already want to have like thousands of elements inside. But I don't see a good use case for that. So usually you can specify just 0. And so we have our first buffer, and this, you notice that it's a let, and probably some of you might be thinking, we've said that lets are immutable variable, so this is something we can never change. How are we going to add elements if it's immutable? So what is immutable is the buffer object, but the buffer object is a class. It has methods like .add, .get. And so the underlying representation is not going to change. But since it's an object that can, it has method, you can add things inside, you can use an immutable variable. So what we cannot do, we cannot reassign the variable to a new buffer. Like it would be forbidden to do this. Expected mutable assignments, of course, this is immutable, so we cannot do that, but it's totally okay to add elements to a buffer. And so when you have a library in Motoko, if it's from the base library, you are going to have a documentation. Each module has a documentation associated where you can see every method that you can call on the class or every function that you can call on the object. So for example, .size. So an example is buffer.size. You would get the size of the buffer. The one we are looking for is the add. So add elements. Notice that we can only add elements which corresponds to X, like type X, and it's basically the type of our buffer. So yes, Motoko is very tight. And when you have a buffer, you cannot mix text with NAT and so on. And so so add goal would be essentially taking our buffer. Our buffer is named goal and calling the .add method on it to add a new goal. And I will just for today create a new method. So number goals, which is going to return a NAT. This will be goals.size. Oops. So I'm using .add and .size. And let's do a test. So once again, the fx deploy playground. Okay. Let's see. So we start with 0 goals, of course. And then let's say gets to 100 graduates. We can add that to our buffer. And again, it's taking some time because it's an update function. And we have one goal, and anyone will be able to add more goals as we go. So now maybe I can run a test. Let's see how good I perform. It looks like I have get name, set manifesto, get manifesto are correct, but add goal and get goals are not correct. So probably the problems come from get goals because, so I'm still working on making the tests as accurate and precise as possible, but yeah, it will not say exactly like every time exactly which line is the problem. But if you read what is on the message, you can see that basically it was doing a test on the get goals method and then it failed. So we can safely assume that basically the problem comes from here. And of course, we haven't implemented this method, so that makes sense. And so get goals, the idea is to extract the goals from the buffer into an array and return the array to the outside so we can see what are the goals of the DAO. And maybe you're thinking, why aren't you just returning the buffer? Why don't we do that? It would be simple. Like I could just do return goals. Why do we need to make it an array? So yeah, and that would be a very, very good question. This is because you can't return everything. Like there are some problems. If you try to return a buffer is an object that is non-shareable. So there are some non-shareable objects. Essentially, it's just a little bit more complex than that, but you can, in a first approach, think that every object that is a class, so if you have methods, it's not possible to share it. Because what would happen is like, imagine you have your buffer in one canister, you share it to another canister, so another instance, like another process. And then both of them are able to do .add or .get at any time. That would be completely like crazy to manage how we would develop applications on the IC. So that's why only non-shareable objects can be shared. Only shareable objects can be shared. That's also why you have this shared keyword. It comes from this concept of shareable, non-shareable. And so anything that is like a text, an array, you don't have any, it's not a class, you can share it. So that's why we have to convert the buffer to an array. And so in this case, this wouldn't work because it's saying that this is not an array of text. And the solution to that is to browse and be curious and maybe check array and see if we can convert a buffer to an array. It looks like there is a buffer.toArray that exists. So buffer.toArray. Here. So you can see you have the list of functions on the right of the package. This one is deprecated. Use static library function instead. So it's a very common thing in on the IC. You will see a lot of deprecated things. Things are moving a lot very fast, and this was working a few months ago, but now it's not recommended to use it. So you probably have another one. It's just the same, but like, yeah, it's not a static function. So basically, it's a bit confusing. But usually in the past we would do this to array, but they've decided to move as much as possible away from this syntax. So now, more and more, you will see buffer.toArray like this. Instead of using the class methods, we would use the static function from the buffer library. And this will create an array from the goals and return that. Maybe we can do a deploy. See what's. Let's see. And so I had one goal earlier, but is it still here? Looks like essentially every time we deploy, our state is reset. So that's also one other thing. The state of a canister, you have something called stable memory that we will see later in the bootcamp, but by default, everything that is not stable, so all the rest, like the goals, for example, they will be reset on upgrades. So that's why we don't have any goal left. And let's try it out. So graduates, reach 100 graduates. Seems to be added to the buffer. And so we have one goal. And we have a vector which has one element, which 100 graduates. The type that you see here, it's the candidate types. So it's not the Motoko type, it's the candidate type. And you have also, I think, the UI and the JSON like syntax style, but if you go to text, it's going to be candid. One last thing, you can also interact with your canister from the dfx command line. So we could do actually a dfx. I know that sometimes people prefer to use the command line. There's a command called dfx canister. And call, which enables you to call any methods on any deploy canister. So dfx canister call. Then we need to specify the network, so playgrounds. The name of the canister. So our canister is named DAO. If you don't remember the name of your canister, you can go to your dfx.json. It's the configuration file where we have defined our canisters. In this case, we only have one, which his name is DAO, and it's a canister of type Motoko with a main file located in source main.mo, this one. So that's the one we have been working on. It's named DAO. So dfx canister call, playground, name of the canister, and name of the methods. In this case, we don't have any arguments. We can try, and it returns the name of our DAO, so Motoko Bootcamp DAO. You're probably going to have this warning as well. I don't know if there is a way to remove this warning. I think there is, but I haven't done it. If you need to use the command line for arguments, like dfx canister call, playgrounds, DAO, and then set manifesto. That's how you define your arguments. So yeah, this is like a bit confusing, but essentially you open a single quote, you open a parenthesis, and then inside you specify your arguments. So my argument is a text, so I need to use double quotes because it's double quotes for text. And then you close the parenthesis and you close the single quote. That's how you specify arguments on the command line. And for instance, you could do. We only have text, but yeah, if you add more like different types of arguments, for example, like if you add add goal. If you wanted to have a NAT, you would do something like this. Yeah, actually something like this. And you can also specify the type here, but it's going to be candidate type not Motoko type. So that's why I don't recommend to use the command line, because the syntax can be a bit confusing. But just so you know, you can do that. I will check if we have a question. So could you explain how concatenation works? I get it, but I just need some clarification. So, question about concatenation. Let name Alice debug.print hello name. Oh, so Tim, if you want, oops. I think you just need to put the space. You have the right concatenation, but the above would up. What if I wanted to? Yeah, so if you wanted to output hello Alice with a space, you would just do that. Okay, that's like exactly the same as you have here. And that's not about the placement of the concatenation. It's more about where, like what you put after and before. Do we have another question here? No? Okay, so let's close this mentorship session, and we have just now, actually, I think, yes, we have a guest speaker from Funded. So it's a crowdfunding platform in on the internet computer. So if you're looking to raise funds for any project, like big project, but even smaller project, it's the place to be. And we will meet with the CEO of Funded. His name is Luke, and you will see. It's a great project that I really like. So see you in 15 minutes. Bye.